I'm Lisa Stone. Thank you for joining us for this edition of Parenting Aces.
Thanks for joining us for this week's episode of Parenting Aces. I'm your host, Lisa Stone, coming at you from Atlanta, Georgia. Now that the college tennis season has concluded, I thought it would be great to find out what our kids need to be doing this summer to prepare themselves for tennis in the fall, whether they are going to be a freshman on a college team or whether they've already completed a year or 2 or 3 of college tennis. And so this week's guest, Dave Mullins, is going to chat with us a little bit about some specific things that the kids can be doing to keep themselves in ideal tennis shape as they get ready for the fall. And just to give you a little bit of background on Dave, he is originally from Ireland and was the Irish national junior champion in his junior years and competed at Junior Wimbledon, competed at the Junior French Open, and eventually made his way to the States to play his college tennis at Fresno State University out in California. He was a very influential player on his team. He helped his team get into the top 25, and he himself was ranked in the top 50 in singles and actually the top 5 in doubles while he was at Fresno State. He did finish with All-American honors and decided to give the ATP Tour a try for a brief stint. He had a little bit of success, but was faced with some injuries and made the decision to leave the tennis tour and to enter the realm of coaching. And he has actually coached at all levels of the game, from beginners to seniors and everything in between, but eventually found himself back in the world of college tennis as a coach. And he started out on the men's side, but migrated over to the women's side, finishing his coaching career as the head coach at the University of Oklahoma on the women's side. And he recently retired and moved with his wife and kids back to Dublin, where he is now working at the club that he grew up playing in. But Dave is also very interested in helping families navigate through the whole tennis process, much like what we're doing at Parenting Aces. And so recently he's been writing a series of articles for tennisrecruiting.net, which some of you may have seen either on TRN's website, or I share a lot of those articles on the Parenting Aces Facebook page as well. And Dave recently reached out to me about doing this podcast, and I thought, gosh, what a treat to get to pick his brain a little bit. Since this is the end of the school year, we figured talking about how to spend your summer seemed like a great topic. So that's what we're going to be discussing this week. I hope you will stay tuned. And when we come back from this short commercial, you will be hearing from Dave Mullins.
Don't miss a thing on Parenting Aces. Be sure to sign up for our free e-newsletter so you're among the first to know when a new article is posted. Simply go to parentingaces.com and enter your email address, then click subscribe in the subscribe for updates box on the left side of the page.
I'm thrilled to have Dave Mullins on this week's podcast, and Dave comes to us with such an extensive background in tennis, and I'm going to let him give us a little rundown of how he got to where he is today in terms of his tennis experience. And Dave, thank you so much for coming on the show. We had a few technical glitches early on, but I'm so happy we figured out how to connect and get you with us all the way from Ireland.
Yeah, thank you, Lisa. It's great to be on your show. I appreciate it.
Well, so I would love for you to just give us a quick synopsis of your life in tennis, how you got started playing, and the various arenas that you played in terms of, the levels of tennis, and what you're up to right now.
Sure. Well, like you said, I'm in Ireland right now. This is where I grew up, and played all my junior tennis in Ireland until the age of 18. Really probably by the age of 14, 15, I knew that I wanted to go to the States on a tennis scholarship. And there's not much opportunity in Ireland in terms of playing at a higher level once you're done with your high school or junior tennis. So most top Irish players head over to the States and continue to try and pursue their tennis there. So that was a big goal of mine from a pretty early age. So I played, all around Europe. I was fortunate to play in a lot of ITF tournaments and played in Junior French Open and Junior Wimbledon, and got a scholarship to Fresno State University in California. And I spent 4 years there. My senior year, I was an All-American and kind of top 50 singles player, top 10 doubles player in college by my senior year. And then I had a brief stint on the pro tour, ran out of money pretty quickly and got a little banged up and kind of let that dream fizzle out. But I enjoyed my time. I learned a lot. I played Davis Cup for Ireland during that period as well, which was an amazing experience. So I got to play at quite a high level and, was around a lot of really good players as well and kind of was able to see what they were doing and I wasn't doing or wasn't willing to do. But pretty soon after I finished up playing, I got into coaching and really have been lucky to coach at a number of different places and coach at a lot of different levels. I think a lot of college coaches, they jump straight into college coaching, and I think they miss a little bit in their coaching development by not spreading their skills around to a lot of different levels. So I was able to coach, 3-year-olds all the way up to 83-year-olds and everything in between. And I think it helped develop me as a coach. I was able to be around a lot of other coaches before I jumped into the college game. But my first opportunity as a college coach was at DePaul University with the men's team. And then I moved over to be the assistant women's coach at Northwestern University. And my last year there, we finished, we were the number 1 seed heading into the NCAA tournament. So we had a great year, and that kind of propelled me on to become the head coach at the University of Oklahoma, where I spent 8 years. And I retired from college coaching last summer to move back to Ireland and be with my family here and pursue some other opportunities. So right now I'm the director of sports at a club in Dublin, Ireland. I'm not really coaching so much. I'm trying to help players from a different angle, kind of off the court and, sharing my experiences. But my time on court now is kind of for myself, and I'm being selfish with my tennis again, but happy to help people as much as possible.
And my readers might recognize your name from the many, many articles you've written for tennisrecruiting.net. You sit on all the panels that I sit on at tennisrecruiting.net as well. So to my listeners, if the name David Mullins sounds familiar, maybe that's where you heard it, if you're not from one of the areas where Dave was coaching the college team.
Yeah, definitely. I was lucky. I just kind of fell into the writing aspect of it as well, and just I found that I enjoyed writing. I don't think I'm a particularly strong writer, but I just, I'd write a lot in terms of my own thoughts and opinions, and kind of have a lot of notebooks during my time for coaching, whether that's drills or ideas or team building exercises or quotes from books that I'd read and things like that. So I just kind of started putting some things down on paper in tennis recruiting. Dallas there and Julie liked my writing style, I guess, and it's kind of worked out where I have a monthly article or blog on the website there. So I really enjoy that process and give pretty honest opinions. I don't hold back. I've seen a lot, I've experienced a lot as a player, as a coach, and as a parent, and I'm trying to put some order to all those thoughts and definitely help players with the college process as well. I know it's very confusing, but I think for players and parents to hear honest opinions about the college process and kind of from the coach's side as well, and give them some insights that maybe they haven't heard before, I think can be helpful.
Absolutely. And just so my listeners know, Dave does have a website that includes a blog with a lot of great articles, and that's DaveMullinsTennis.com, and I'll have a link to that in the show notes, so be sure and check that out. So, Dave, I would love to jump into the meat of this week's podcast, which is how players should be spending their summers, and specifically that summer after their last year of high school, before they start their college tennis career, and then the summers while they're in college, how they should be spending their time in terms of tennis and non-tennis activities. So maybe we can first start out with talking about that summer after high school graduation, before the first year of college. From the coach's perspective, when you were coaching, what expectations did you have of your incoming freshmen?
Yeah, that's a great question. And, it's quite individual. Everybody's coming in with, different circumstances and different amounts of competition under their belt, different parts of the world as well. But really, I think the biggest shock for most freshmen starting off is just the physical nature of the training, especially the first probably 4 to 6 weeks. Because of the way the NCAA hours are broken down, basically you can only do 2 hours of tennis per week, and then you have 6 hours of off-court strength and conditioning. So the bulk of that time, obviously, is spent off the court, and you're not hitting a whole lot of balls with your coach or getting a lot of on-court feedback. So most of the feedback and interactions you're going to have with the coaches in the first few weeks are maybe going to be on the track or the field or in the gym or on the tennis court, but without, the racket in your hand, or maybe the racket is in your hand, but you're not hitting balls. And most freshmen really struggle with kind of the expectations and work ethic that is required to make the jump at that level. And they're not really prepared to do a lot of tough physical work in those first few weeks for, kind of back-to-back days. And look, some of that work isn't particularly productive. I think sometimes the coaches are trying to get a sense of where their players are at mentally as well. And it's not just about physical. They're looking to see what maybe they can endure and what's breaking them down, and, what complaints they're having, or are they giving up a little earlier than the coach would hope. So there's a lot that goes into it. It's hopefully not mindless feedback and workouts that the coach are making the players do. But my advice for most freshmen coming in is to spend the summer before they get there really getting in great shape. I mean, they should be in the gym. They should be, spending hopefully time with a personal trainer if they can afford it, and it's part of their program. Getting on a good weight training schedule before they get there, injury-proofing their body would be ideal. So, as tennis players, it's tough, though, because, we're kind of playing 12 months of the year, 11 months of the year, and when you're trying to balance a tournament schedule and get in the weight room and do the off-court stuff as well, it is a tough balance. So if that's not possible, then the players need to be playing a lot of matches, and they need to be, match fit, on-court fit, even though they're not going to play matches those first several weeks of college. The physical demands they're going to be asked to do, the more prepared they are for that, obviously the better they'll be, and they won't spend too much time, in the training room or getting injured or being miserable, really, because when you're sore and you're tired and, it's that can drag on and be frustrating, and that welcome to college may not be as great as you thought it might be. So it's really important to be in the best physical shape you can be. And obviously, players are still young. They're 18 years old. They're going to get stronger and fitter, and that's one of the benefits of going to college, is that you're going to become mentally and physically tougher. But getting your body in peak optimal shape, whatever that looks like for that individual, would be a great place to be by the time they're stepping foot on campus in August or September.
Can you talk about specifically what this off-court training looks like once they get to college? And I know you can only speak from, the programs that you coached in, but I think if people hear what's involved, I mean, I agree with you. The kids get to school and they're just in total shock over not just what's involved with their tennis in terms of the on-court and the off-court, but, I mean, they're also trying to balance that with being away from home, with, taking this course load and trying to meet new people. I mean, it's a lot going on. And I think if we can have a better understanding of the specifics of what that training schedule really looks like, then maybe the kids will understand, hey, this is no joke. Like, I really need to commit some time this summer to getting myself ready to handle this.
Yeah, no, like I said, it looks different everywhere they go, and that those 8-week off-season periods, like I said, it could be anywhere from maybe 2 weeks to 8 weeks based on whether you're on the quarter system or a semester system. There's a lot of factors that go into it, and it's up to coach as well how they want to break down those weeks. So they may start off with less of those weeks and kind of stockpile them in November and December. It just depends. But, a typical week when you get there, it doesn't matter really where you go in the States in August or September, it's generally pretty warm. And so, hopefully you're used to that. You're acclimatized from the summer wherever you are in the world. But you are acclimatized to start playing and working out in the heat. If you've, spent the summer kind of avoiding the sun and maybe playing indoors because it was too hot, or training indoors because, you don't like playing or training in the sun, well, the coach is going to have you out there in the sun because that's where you are going to be playing matches at least the start of the fall and the end of the spring. You're probably going to be playing in pretty hot conditions. And, most of the time it's going to improve your conditioning if you're stressing your body in hotter conditions. But, you can probably bank on spending at least 3 hours in the gym per week. So it's probably Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. There's going to be a strength training session. Hopefully early on in the first week or two, there's different fitness testing going on that either the tennis coach or the strength or conditioning coach is putting their players through to see where they're at, and they have to meet them where they're at. There's no point absolutely, putting them on the program that some seniors been on for several years and their body's adapted to. So they have to meet the freshmen where they're at. But still, it's going to be hours in the weight room, and it's going to be building up to lifting some pretty heavy weights and stressing the body, and there is going to be a lot of muscle soreness, and that's, no matter how well prepared you are, you're still going to go through that. But then you're going to have to back that up, on maybe Tuesday and Thursday, where there might be a 6 a.m. track workout, and maybe you're running, anywhere from 4 to 8 400-meter sprints as fast as you can with a minute and a half in between. Maybe you're doing the stadium runs, and depending on the side of the football stadium, that can look very different. Maybe you're doing 1 lap, maybe you're doing 3 laps. Usually the coach is probably going to see aerobically where they're at, so there might be some maybe 3 to 6 mile runs. They usually won't go on much longer than that, but the coach is trying to get a sense of where the aerobic systems are at, and then move into more anaerobic training. But as the weeks go by, you're probably moving onto the court a little bit more, doing more agility on court type of sprints. But the coach is going to push them, even if it's an easy, what's deemed as an easy, maybe cone agility exercise. The coach is going to be pushing them to do it as hard as they can, and maybe the reps and sets are going to be higher, and the breaks are going to be shorter than they would be in season when, the coaches are trying to rest their players for the weekend. So, you're looking at 5 days a week, and that's without the tennis portion of it. There will be an expectation from the coach that the players are still practicing with one another, and the coach, like I said, can do 2 hours. The coach might break that up to 30 minutes, a day over 4 of the 5 days. So there's a lot of different ways that it can look, but at least Monday through Friday, the players can expect to do, 1 hour conditioning, 30 minutes to an hour of tennis, and then the expectation would be that they're playing more tennis above that. But then they're also probably going to the training room and they're, icing, and they're dealing with any niggly injuries that maybe they have. And like you said, they're getting used to a new course load. They've probably got different orientations that they're going to. They're trying to make new friends, whether that's in the dorms or on the team or with different athletes. So those first few weeks are very busy. And again, if you go in and think those first few weeks are going to be a breeze because they're only 8 hours per week, it's really a lot more than those 8 hours. And if you're not ready to go from those very first few weeks, you're going to start feeling that stress, and it's going to compound, and it's going to make your first semester a lot tougher than maybe it needs to be.
Is it common practice among the coaches to send incoming freshmen some sort of training regimen or list of expectations for how they should spend their summer?
Yeah, it is. It's definitely something I used to do, but it is difficult. I think we're hesitant to give workouts to players, especially gym workouts, where they may not have the familiarity with some of the exercises, and they may be bypassing, the basic fundamentals and techniques that they should be using on some of the exercises. So that's why I think it's really important to have a professional to work with, so that the professional can kind of look over the program that the coach or the strength and conditioning coach from the university is sending them, so they can kind of get them, if they're ready for that, great, but maybe they need a few weeks to build up to what those expectations will be, and help them with those fundamentals. So I thought it was always great when I had players that came in and understood basic lifting patterns, whether that's squat form or deadlifting form, just those kind of compound lifts. If they had a good sense of what that technique looked like, then again they can make those strides a lot faster. If they're really uncoordinated in those moves and just unfamiliar with the weight room, then again, that path is going to be a little longer. But no, I think most coaches are sending out what those expectations are. If a player that's listening to this, is getting ready to go to college in August or September and hasn't been sent those expectations, I'd definitely follow up with the coach and ask, what the workouts were that, what were the team doing August of the previous year, and what were they doing in the spring, and just getting a sense of what that looks like, and also talking to the coach about, what are those first few weeks going to look like for them, and what should they be prepared for. Hopefully the coach is doing that, but a lot of the times the coaches are so busy recruiting and looking at the next class or the class after that they can lose track of the players that they have coming in and just assume that they'll be ready, and I don't think any assumption should be made on either side.
For sure. And what about tournament play that last summer in the juniors? For most of the kids as incoming freshmen, they are still, able to play junior events. How important is it that they continue to play those events, or are there other tournaments or other types of match play that they should be seeking out?
Yeah, I think the ITA summer circuit that was introduced maybe a decade or so ago now, and they continue to grow. I think they started off with maybe 2 to 4 tournaments in different regions of the country, and now I think they're up to 6 per month at different locations around the various different USDA regions. I think those are great tournaments because you're getting to play your peer group, probably some junior players, but there's going to be college players there as well. And so to just get some insights into the college game and maybe, what are the college players doing differently, and maybe testing yourself. So if you're going to a college that is maybe ranked similar to another team, and you play a player who's 6 or 7 on that team, or whatever number, and you have a close match, well, you have a good sense of maybe where you're going to fit in, straight off the bat. So I think those tournaments are fantastic, and players should definitely seek those out. Again, it just depends where they are, and if they are chasing points or wins to play specific tournaments in the summer, even ITF tournaments and things like that. But I don't think it matters all that much. I think getting match play is vital, and the more match tough you are, the better you're going to be in college, and the better competitive practices that you've learned, and the more you extract from those matches, the better you will be prepared for college going forward. So really, any matches that you can get in the summer, I would grab. And when we talk about matches, you're trying to, again, if you're playing 20 matches, hopefully you're winning 9, losing 11, or whatever that ratio is. But and within those matches, there's a lot of 3-set matches, or they're close 2-set matches. It's not that you're winning 5 of them 0-0 and losing 5 of them 0-0. You're just trying to push yourself to those pressure moments, those 4-all moments in the third set, or first set tie break, or serving out a match, or closing out break points. Because when they get into college as well, they're playing no ad now as well, which is very different, and it's a different kind of pressure, and it takes some time to get used to. So I guess the more pressure you can put yourself under, not that you want to put yourself under pressure, but the more of those pressure situations you can experience the summer before college, I think will stand you well as you go into playing no ad tennis matches for a team, because that's a different pressure as well. So I'd highly recommend, if you're not going to be in the gym and getting as fit as possible, then you're trying to play as many matches as possible to be prepared. And if for whatever reason you can't travel and play matches, well, then you need to be training and getting your body ready to train and play in the fall.
What about playing just pickup matches? And if there's a local club where maybe there's some former college players that hang out and play on the weekends, are those matches equally valuable in your eyes for an incoming college freshman who, again, just needs the match play, or do they really need to be in a tournament situation?
Yeah, there's value there. I don't think they're equal. I think being in a tournament environment with just a little bit more on the line, and that's something different for everybody. But there is something about feeling those nerves as you start a match or walk onto the court, or you're trying to close out a lead or come back or whatever it is. When you get into kind of a more relaxed practice match situation, you're just, you can let those moments go. If you win easy or you lose easy, the same focus, the same pressure isn't there. Again, I think pickup matches are great. I don't think they're happening enough, to be honest. I think players are relying far too much on coaches to give them structured play. I'm back in Ireland now, and I'm back at the tennis club that I grew up in, and I remember going down on Sunday mornings to play in men's morning with guys of all ages and standards, and different games. Some of them are hacking at the ball and bunting serves in or lobbing every shot, and some of them are whacking the ball as hard as they can. But I'm exposing myself to all these different game styles and different personalities, and some of them are cheating and want to win more than anything, and Some are very welcoming. So yes, the more different game styles you can play against, whether that's at your local club or park or high school or, even college. There's college players on campuses taking summer school classes that probably would love to hit with somebody that's heading to the college ranks and is going to be in their peer group as well. So there is value there, but if I had a choice, I'd definitely be going to try and play in a competitive environment with something on the line.
Got it. Okay, so now, my kid has completed his or her freshman year, has had a great year on the college team, and it's summer again, and there are now the player is 3 years away from, quote, the real world, having to go out and make a living. And I say this all the time, but the reality is for most of these college players, after they're done with their 4 years, they are going to have a job that does not involve hitting a fuzzy yellow ball across a net. So at what point, from the coaching perspective now, would you say it's okay for these college players to take at least a part of their summer and have some sort of internship or hopefully paid job to help offset some of the costs? And how do they balance that with staying fit enough to be ready for school again the following fall?
Yeah, this is always a tricky one for sure as a coach, and I think as I got older, I got a lot wiser about it as a college coach. I think when I was, I was 28 when I became a head coach, which is quite young for the level at which I was coaching, and the team wasn't very good that I inherited, and I'm trying to get them better, and my expectations for what they should be doing in the summer were a lot higher than when I got older and a little bit more established and could see that 4 years was tough for these players, that it was hard to get, their best tennis out of them for 4 years. And I think the summer is really crucial, and they need to. Again, each player is very different. Everybody needs something different, but a lot of players don't know what they need, and that's a shame. And they need to take the lead on what it is they feel they need in the summer. And for some, that's taking a break from tennis. For others, it's playing even more tournaments, and there's something in between. Look, there's a balance there. I think. First and foremost, they need to keep their fitness up, because when they shut it down completely in the summer, and I know they're tired and they've had a long year, but nobody needs, weeks on end off. It's not good for you as a human being. I mean, I don't go 2 days without doing something, and that might be a short run or lifting some weights or some yoga or something like that, but if I go more than a few days, I start, feeling bad about myself. But the players need to be really conscious of what they're doing with their bodies and what they're putting into their bodies as well. So, even if a player didn't hit a ball all summer long, didn't play a tournament, as long as they were moving and stretching and keeping their strength up and eating well and drinking well and just taking care of themselves, then, usually their tennis would still be in a good spot. It's those players that do nothing at all and come back and, usually they get injured and they spend the first, several weeks or months dealing with, just little injuries that could be avoided if they just stayed consistent with some type of program throughout the summer. In my experience, though, the players that made the biggest improvements in college played in the summers. And like you said, is that, half the summer, the whole summer. I think the players need to understand. For me personally, I always felt like I was playing my best tennis in May. I just played a ton of matches from January to May. I felt very match fit. I felt very confident. and I wanted to go out and play as many tournaments as I could in June and July, and then I'd probably take a couple of weeks off tennis in early August, but I'd still keep my fitness at a decent level, and then be ready to go at the end of August when I'd head back for the fall. So that's what worked well for me. I think some players, they get to May and they're just completely exhausted. They're spent. They're stressed from finals. They just need a mental break and a physical break. So they may take a few weeks off in June and then return to tournament play July and August and kind of be at their peak as they come back to college at the end of August, as they know they're going to get that break again the following June. So it's very personal. In terms of internships, again, I mean, at the end of my junior year, I did an internship back here in Ireland, and didn't play much tennis, didn't have time. Was working for a construction company and was very busy and learned a lot in that process. Kept my fitness up. Would get up in the morning and try and get some running in or some gym work in. And I came back and had my best year as a college player as a senior. So it's just very individual, but I advise everybody to put a lot of thought into it and don't take it for granted, and don't let those weeks and months slip away. You need to have a plan. I think as long as players have a plan, whether that's internship, a job, playing tournaments, combination of all those things, but they should be planning out their summers as much as they plan out the rest of the year, and that's hopefully something that they'll continue to do as, like you said, they enter the real world, and we'll have to do that and combine all those things if they want to excel in them. So it is very personal, but there is a balance there for everybody. But a lot of coaches now at the top level are demanding. Demanding is a strong word, but they're encouraging their players to stay around in the summer for longer periods. Sometimes that's a good thing if there's a technical change that needs to be made, and the players need to really hone in on a couple of technical issues that maybe they weren't able to tackle during the spring. Well, there's some benefits there, and players may take a lighter load of classes in the spring because of their travel, and might need to make that up in the summer if they still want to graduate in 4 years. So, there's so many, variables or combinations out there. But I guess my advice is to have a plan, be productive, and keep your body healthy for your college experience, but for life as well.
In your experience, do the college coaches want to be involved in kind of the planning process for the summer, or do the coaches prefer to just have the players handle it?
I'd say it's probably 50-50, Lisa. I don't want to speak for other coaches. My experience would be that it's definitely a little bit of both. I think maybe at the higher Division I levels, the pressures maybe are a little greater. There's more resources going into the programs. So, the athletic administrators, the coaches maybe feel a little bit more pressure to perform, and they're, maybe scared if their players are out of their sight for the summer that, oh no, what decisions are they going to make, and are they going to come back and be out of shape and not have picked up a racket and all those other things that could potentially happen. But no, it's really, I personally like to sit down with my players. I mean, we'd probably start talking about their summer after spring break, so maybe the end of March, early April, and start talking about kind of what their plans would be. Where, are they going home? Are they doing summer school? Maybe they're doing summer school on campus, or maybe they're doing some classes online. But my expectation would be that the players could kind of show me, what their calendar would be for the summer. And not that I'm checking in on them. It's just that they're telling me what they're doing. And, three of those weeks might be I'm doing nothing and I'm relaxing and I'm watching Netflix for those 3 weeks. Well, okay, well, at least you've thought about it and put some planning behind it. And okay, those are going to be your rest weeks. Then that, rest is important too. So I think what coaches want to see is that they're putting some thought to it. They're hoping their players are going to get a balance between rest, tournament play, practice, and off-court work. I think any coach would be happy to see a combination of those things. And I think for the most part, coaches would be very happy and thrilled for their student athletes if they get an internship or a job. And some players, may not be on full scholarships, and to ask them to not get a job in the summer and play tennis, well, that's unrealistic for a lot of players. They may need to go and get a coaching job or whatever it is for the summer to be able to pay some of their bills, later in the year. So, again, it is very individual, but I think coach should be encouraging the players to look at it diligently.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I would hope that's the case. And, as a parent, you definitely want to feel like when your child finishes their 4 years, hopefully 4 years of college, that they have some sort of practical work experience under their belt so that they are marketable out in the workforce, So if they've spent all of those summers in college only playing tennis and not training for some other type of work, they can be behind the 8 ball a little bit. Even though I think you'll agree, having that college tennis on your resume is a really good door opener for a lot of these kids.
Yes, definitely. I mean, that has been my experience for sure. And the type of time management skills and discipline that's required to succeed as a college athlete is, often far and above the average student. And, they do need to be given credit for that. But like you said, I know when I did that internship, I was probably more disciplined with my time because I had less, if that makes sense. I think when you give yourself too much time, you're often very unproductive and can get a little lazy. But if you have a 30-minute window to get something in, or you have a deadline, well, you're probably going to be pretty productive with that time. So, there's absolutely no reason why you can't do all these things as a student athlete. It's 4 years. In some cases, it's maybe even 4.5, 5 years as people stretch out their scholarships and their graduation date. But there's so much support on these campuses now. There's so many opportunities for internships or some type of work experience. And even if it's not paid, yes, these players should be doing, voluntary work and trying to get a sense of what it is they want to do after college. And, there's so many people that want to help them as well, whether that's, alumni or boosters. And I don't mean, giving them, money or extra benefits or anything like that, but there's a lot of people on a campus or surrounding athletic department that want to help these student athletes succeed while they're there and succeed afterwards. And it's an amazing opportunity. And I loved every second of it as a player and got so much out of it, and definitely opened doors for me.
When you were coaching, Dave, did the majority of your players wind up trying the professional tour for a bit, or did the majority of them move out of playing tennis into some sort of other career?
Yeah, I definitely the majority went on to a non-tennis career after college. I think, what I found was a lot of players come to college, Well, I don't know how to put this. They come with, I think a lot of them think they're more prepared and maybe better than they actually are. And they think, I'm just going to kind of, I know these players and, I've watched them play. They don't look so good. I'm going to be fine. And then when they get on court and they then have to manage, the busyness of a student athlete and, putting all those things in place, they see like, oh wow, I'm just kind of one of a lot of really good players out here, and there's just small margins separating all these players, and I think as their student athlete career goes on, I think not that they definitely don't lose interest in tennis. I mean, not some of them do, but most of them don't. I think they love playing for a team and playing for one another and playing for something bigger than themselves. And I think, they just maybe become a little bit more well-rounded. They're exposed to a lot of other interesting ideas and opportunities in life, and they start gravitating more to maybe their area of study or something else that's caught their attention, and start planning in that way. I mean, very few players, especially on the ladies' side, would try the pro ranks. I think it happens a lot more on the men's side than it does on the ladies' side. But that's fine. It's not. I think a lot of players, and I've written articles about this before, a lot of players feel like they need to say, I want to be a professional tennis player. That's my goal. College coaches don't need to hear that. They just want to know that you're driven to get better during your college years, and wherever that leads you. If that leads you to pro tour, fantastic. But if it leads you to an occupation that you're going to be passionate about, then even better. So it's definitely on the lady side. It doesn't happen a whole lot.
Interesting. Well, let's shift gears a little bit because we're nearing the closing point on the show, and I want to make sure that I give you an opportunity to talk a little bit more about high school players who are aspiring to play in college. And I know you've written so many great articles about this for tennis recruiting, and I've shared most of them on Parenting Aces as well. So thank you for that. But in case there are people listening to this that have not had the opportunity to read your great articles, you have a very honest approach to college recruiting and the whole process, and what the student athlete should be doing and what the parents should be doing, or more importantly, not be doing during the recruiting process. And maybe you can touch on that a little bit.
Yeah, look, I mean, I did it for 12 years and I've seen a lot of different things and heard a lot of different things. And, from a coach's perspective, I always loved when the players took the lead, when players would come on unofficial visits or official visits, or we talk on the phone, that I'd be communicating directly with the player the majority of the time. And that's not to say I'd have all the time in the world for the parents, and I felt I could learn a lot. Oftentimes, if I liked the parent, I liked the child, and as I got a sense for the parents' personality and kind of their interactions, as coaches, we're looking at all those different things, but we really want to see that the players are taking the lead, that they have an understanding of what it is they want to get out of their college experience. And, the recruiting process, it's happening earlier and early, which I'm not a huge fan of at all. I think, the more time we can give these players to develop and understand what it is they really want, the better. So, I mean, my advice definitely is for players to take the lead, even if they're a little shy and not used to being in those situations. They have to learn to put themselves out there, and the parents need to learn to take a step back and let their children kind of, wallow in those awkward moments or just learn how they're going to interact with the coaches and the players and be by themselves, because that's going to sneak up on them pretty quickly. And if they're struggling to do that a year or 2 years out of college, well, they're probably going to struggle with it their first year of college. I'd love to see an independent streak in players, and when I had a really good sense that they were genuine about what they wanted to get out of college. You can tell when it's genuine and when it's not, or when it's coming through the parents. And I'd be having discussions with my child all the time about what it is they want and why, and trying to challenge them into some of their thinking patterns, or some of the ways we can form. And I've written about this in the articles, how you can get trapped into thinking, well, I want to go to the school because they're always top 5 in the country, or they're challenging for a national title, and that's what I want to do. And that's nice to say, but is it really what you want? I mean, shouldn't your degree program be maybe a little bit more important, or proximity to your family or away from your family? Maybe the weather's a concern. Maybe you have a seasonal depression where you don't want to be in a snowy climate, or a dark climate for several months of the year, and you need to be in the sunshine. But thinking beyond, just what the team is ranked, and what is your relationship with the coach, and what are you looking to get out of the coach, and what are the experience the coach has that you may feel be a good match for you. Going a little deeper into all these questions, and not just focusing on the surface level, because a university has a good brand name. Just because the university has a good brand name doesn't mean the coach is the right fit, doesn't mean they have the right degree program for you, doesn't mean that you'll fit in with the general population. Maybe it's a school with 55,000 students and you're better suited to a small private school with 5,000 students. These are all things that players should be considering and thinking and talking about with their parents, with their coaches, with other players that maybe have gone through the college system that they can lean on. But just really encourage them to look beyond the maybe the obvious and really dig deep into it, because I know in the past, I don't know the most recent statistics, but I think up to 2 years ago, tennis had the second highest transfer rate of any NCAA Division 1 sport. I think men's basketball was number 1, and men's and women's tennis was number 2, and that's frightening to me. And I just think players are maybe committing too early and not doing all their research, and the coaches aren't helping either. They're pressuring players into making decisions earlier, and they may not be the right fit for the coach. So it's a lot goes into it, and it's not something that should be taken lightly.
Well, in keeping with our theme of summer, it's interesting. This time of year, really the beginning of the NCAA championships, and as the championships conclude, is when the coaching carousel, as my friend Bobby Knight likes to refer to it, starts, where the coaches are leaving their jobs, moving to different jobs perhaps. Job openings are happening. You start hearing about the player carousel as well. The transfers start getting announced. And, there's a lot of movement that happens in college tennis during the summer. And one of the hard things about having committed to a school is, oh my gosh, what if, the 2 guys that I got to be friendly with all year through my visits decide to transfer? What if the coach decides to move to another school? What if the assistant coach leaves? And as a player, those are things that are completely out of your control. And so I'm wondering, what advice would you have to an incoming player about how to handle those types of issues, because they're bound to come up for many of these kids.
Yeah, that's tough, because I just went through that last year where, I made the decision at the age of 36 to retire from college tennis, and took a lot of people by surprise, and moving myself and my family back to Ireland. And so I had, 3 incoming freshmen that were extremely upset with me and my decision. And, I think I was able to get away with it a little bit more, because maybe I wasn't going to another university, because I always felt I'd finished my coaching career at the University of Oklahoma. I was very happy there, and it's a great university and great job, tennis job. So I wasn't looking to go elsewhere, to a different university. But that's definitely not the case. There are, plenty of coaches out there that are, looking maybe to get to that next level in coaching. And so, players, kind of comes back to being very sure on your reasons for choosing a college, and it probably should never be just one thing. Especially with assistant coaches, a lot of assistant coaches will take the lead on recruiting, and players will develop close relationships with the assistant coach, and maybe not the head coach. And the assistant coaches, usually their tenure is a lot shorter than a head coach, because they're moving around and they're looking to become a head coach in one day. And I'm speaking in generalizations here, but it's tough, and I'm pretty close to it now. And I don't have any great answers, to be honest. I mean, I was encouraging those players that I was leaving, especially those freshmen coming in, that, the University of Oklahoma is a great institution. It's a great place to go to college. They're going to find a really good replacement for me. And that, nearly all the things that I promised you when you signed, that the University of Oklahoma was going to provide for you, they're still going to be provided. That's never going to be in doubt. It's just then, how do those players mesh with the new coach or coaching staff? And really, you have to keep an open mind, and you have to give it a chance. And hopefully the coach is going to keep an open mind about you as well. Look, they want the team to be successful straight off the bat, and want to show that they're doing a good job. So they should be keeping an open mind with new players. But it works both ways, and there's going to be some bumps along the road, and they're going to be feeling each other out a little bit more than when they've already established that relationship with the previous coach. But it is tricky, and it is upsetting, and it's already a little bit scary coming into a new environment, and then that's thrown on you as well. But it happens. There's colleges that they may have 2 coaches in a 4-year period. They may have 3 coaches in a 4-year period. The players are going to go through it, and it's if it's really bad, that's where transferring is an option. They're always going to have that option. I'd encourage them to at least keep an open mind and give it a go for a year. And then if it's just not working, if it's a bad fit and the coach just isn't right and very different from the coach you signed up for, then maybe you do need to transfer. But these things in life, they happen. And I think they're building resilience. I think they're building character. I think something good is going to come out of it. As bad as it seems, it's probably not as bad as you think. You're still probably on a scholarship at a great university, playing tennis and being awarded a lot of really good things, and many opportunities to come your way. So a lot of it depends on how you look at it as well, and hopefully you can look on the positive side of it. But while you're working through kind of the sadness of that coach moving on.
Sure. Well, Dave, thank you so much for being with us on the podcast this week and sharing your experience and your knowledge with us. And I hope that my listeners will take to heart the information that you shared specifically regarding how they should be spending their summers, because I've watched a lot of kids start in the fall and just be shell-shocked with what's waiting for them when they arrive on campus. So, hopefully they will take your message to heart.
Yeah, no, I hope so too. I mean, look, it's always going to be a bit of a shock to the system, but the more they can do to lower that shock, the better. And but I think reaching out to the coach and getting a clear sense of what those expectations are is a good place to start. But no, thank you so much for having me on. And if you're coming across parents that need some input, just please tell them to email me. I'm happy to help. The writing that I do and some of the consultancy that I do, it's very much on the side. And I've a busy job here and busy family life, but I do really want to help players get this right. And if anybody ever has any questions, I want to help and help them get it right and help them be prepared for what's ahead.
Well, that's very generous of you. If it's all right with you, I will include your email address in the show notes as well then.
Yeah, definitely. I may not get back to them straight away, but I read all my emails and do my best to give deliberate responses.
Perfect. Well, Dave, thanks again for being with us. And to my listeners, thank you so much for tuning in to the Parenting Aces podcast. We'll see you next week.
I'm Lisa Stone, and you've been listening to the Parenting Aces podcast. For tennis parents, by a tennis parent. If you like what you've heard, please subscribe to us and write a review on iTunes. For more information on navigating the junior and college tennis journey, visit us online at parentingaces.com. As always, a huge thank you to our sponsor, tennisballs.com.